Hello, and thanks for joining us for this special edition of Tech 24, dedicated to how technology is transforming archaeology. From robots to drones to the use of particles from deep space to map the inaccessible interiors of ancient buildings, we show you all the different ways in which archaeology is at the forefront of emerging technologies. And we'll take a look at several apps that you can download now to gain more knowledge about some of the most beautiful treasures on Earth. But first, it was once dubbed the best preserved monument in Syria. But today, all that's left of Palmyra's 2,000-year-old temple is an arch after it was destroyed by Islamic State militants last year. While now, in an act of defiance, the Institute for Digital Archaeology has come up with a plan to immortalize the entrance to the temple. It's set to make a 3D-printed replica of the stone structure that will later be shipped to New York and London. Sanam Chantier has the story.
The ancient city of Palmyra, yet another victim of the Islamic State group's relentless destruction of monuments in Syria. The UNESCO heritage site, built by the Romans some 2,000 years ago, was pulverized by the militants in 2015. This video footage shows the extent of the destruction. Most of the Arch of Triumph is now in ruins, with one pole still standing. But the jihadists didn't stop there. They eliminated another national treasure. The keeper of Palmyra, Khalid al-Assad, was beheaded in a public square in the same year. Today, armed with technology, architects and archaeologists are fighting back. Starting in April, 3D replicas of the arch will be printed in Shanghai.
This is great news for archaeologists. It allows us to keep records through photographs, maps and 3D representations on our computers. This gives us something more concrete and visible, allowing us to get closer to recreating both the exterior and interiors of these structures.
And it took an international crisis to launch this project. In a joint venture, the universities of Harvard and Oxford will print the 3D replicas during UNESCO's World Heritage Week in April. The duplicates will then be installed in London and New York, though they could never evoke the same emotions as the original sites.
These sites have been damaged, repaired, certainly lived in. Some have graffiti or have been tagged, if you like. They've changed over time, and that's what moves you when you visit the monuments, mainly because they are ancient.
These 3D graphics are seen as a first step, but it's a technology that can pave the way for preserving other World Heritage sites.
Well, I'm now joined on set by Yves Obelman, the co-founder and CEO of the French startup Ikonam. The startup creates new technologies for archaeologists on the field. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
So more precisely, you've actually come up with a new technology to help archaeologists study sites from a distance, but also for them to have a digital perspective of the site. So tell us more about this technology that you've created and how it works.
Okay. First, we are using drones. Drones are taking thousands and thousands of pictures on a site from different points of view. And all these pictures, we put it in a recent algorithm that detect feature points on the picture. And using thousands of pictures, we can reconstruct in the space these feature points that recreate what we call a point cloud with several millions of points. And this point cloud reconstruct exactly the shape, the geometry of the environment we are taking in picture.
Right.
So that's kind of model. That model are so realistic that it can be used by by archaeologists to investigate scientifically, looking for the shape of the texture and the pattern of this model.
But you also say that it's important for archaeologists to be on the ground, and your company actually trains archaeologists in war-torn countries like Afghanistan, Iraq. Why is it so important to train them?
Why we do that? We do that for two reasons. The first reason is we think it's very important to give to the people on the field the ability, the capacity to do such a complex model, because they are the only people who can reach the threatened site.
Right.
And so that's why we are trying...
Sites that aren't secure, too, because they're in war-torn countries.
Sure. So that's why this training session are, I think, very important for them. And the second reason is we are now launching a huge campaign of digitalization all over the country. So we travel from Damascus to Latakia on several biggest sites, archaeological sites in the country, to take a lot of data in order to create, to constitute the biggest database of virtual archaeology ever done for Syrian heritage.
Well, thank you for that, sir. That was Yves Ubelman, the founder and CEO of the French startup Ikonam. And let's pursue this special edition by taking a look at other technologies used by archaeologists around the world, and let's do that with our in-house expert, Dan and Jay Kattlecar. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Julia.
Well, the most spectacular use of technology to try to solve an ancient mystery is the Scan Pyramids project. And an international team of researchers in Egypt is trying to understand how the pyramids were built some 4,500 years ago. And they're doing that by analyzing so-called cosmic particles. What are they, Dan?
Well, Julia, these particles are called muons. They are created when cosmic rays interact with the upper regions of our atmosphere. These muons are able to penetrate through many materials. They are able to go deep into the earth as well. So using this property, researchers have tried to unlock the mysteries of how the pyramids were constructed. What they do is they placed a muon detector inside a pyramid, and they collected these muons as they passed through the walls. And depending on the scattering angle of these muons, scientists were able to, or they will be able to recreate the way these pyramids were constructed. So it's very interesting, and it's not the only application that this particular technique has. It's already been used in Fukushima, for example, to find radioactive materials. You know, the unique property about muons is that the higher the atomic number of the material they penetrate, the greater is the scattering. So that's the key here, and that's the technique, or that's the property that researchers use for different applications.
Right, and just 2 weeks ago, archaeologists began excavations in a whole other part of the world. It's on the Caribbean coast near Honduras, and it's long rumored the White City. In the first place, it was actually discovered by documentary filmmakers. How did they find this place?
Well, this White City has been a long object of fascination for explorers right from the beginning of the 16th century. Over the past 100 years, there have been multiple expeditions, but none of them succeeded in finding this lost city. But a couple of years ago, researchers, they used an equipment called LiDAR, which stands for Light Detection and Ranging. This has been pioneered by the National Center for Airborne Laser Mapping in the US. So the principle behind LiDAR is that laser beams are shot, pulses of laser beams are shot on a designated area, and a points cloud is created depending on how they get reflected. And this points cloud enables the researchers to recreate the underlying terrain going underneath the rainforest. The dense rainforest was the primary reason why many explorers couldn't find any traces of this White City. But because of this mapping, the fact that the underlying terrain has now been recreated, scientists and researchers are now keen to dig up, the so-called lost city, and hopefully will find the magnificent city in its glory, perhaps.
So you're talking about all this sophisticated technologies, but simple robots can also be used by archaeologists.
That's right. A robot which had a length of 3 feet helped in finding 2 caverns underneath an ancient temple in Mexico, in a ancient city which lies just 30 miles of the capital, Mexico City. So the researchers lowered this robot called Tlaloc-2 TC. It's named after the Aztec god of rain. So this robot, it is equipped with a scanner, it is equipped with an infrared camera and a mechanical arm to clear obstacles, because it is not easy inside these small tunnels which are generally inaccessible. So it has to remove the dirt, it has to remove some stones that might come in its path. So this robot it managed to recreate those images using these scanners and cameras, which helped archaeologists to find 2 more caverns. They expected to find just 1 cavern. So this was a major discovery. So yes, even simple equipments like robots, they are also helping archaeologists to uncover these mysteries of ancient times.
So now we have a better idea of the type of technology that archaeologists on the ground can use, but what kind of tools does a layperson have to learn more about World Heritage?
Well, these days for a layperson, the best tool are the applications on handheld devices, whether it's phones or iPads. So for example, I have an application of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. It's called World Heritage, and here you can see there's a map of all the sites around the world, so you can either geolocalize it. If you geolocalize it, it will tell you the sites that's in your vicinity. So for example, here in Paris, the closest site is around 4 kilometers away from here, and then there's a list of all sites in France. So this is a great thing. The other interesting thing about this app is that you can search for different sites, and when you click on the sites, it will give you relevant pictures and information. Then there's another app, again, related to UNESCO World Heritage Site, but this is Marine Heritage Sites. This is also very interesting. I personally didn't know many of these sites, and I found it fascinating because this comes with information and video. So for example, here see a video of a particular island, and at the same time, it's the same thing for different stuff, and you can also geolocalize it the same way you do it in the terrestrial World Heritage Site. So it's very useful tool for someone who wants to get introduced to archaeology, and it's quite fascinating.
This last app is really cool because we tend to forget that World Heritage is also underwater.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dan. Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Tech 24, but today we leave you with this 3D animation of the ancient Roman city of Pompeii. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.